Stability is often treated as the highest achievement of civilization. We look at a government that does not fall, an economy that does not fluctuate, and an order that does not change, and we call it success. From the outside, the High Republic era looked like a golden age. There was no open war. There was no visible chaos. The map remained constant for 1,000 years. Everything appeared calm, predictable, controlled. And because of that, stability was praised as the ultimate goal. But history, both real and fictional, keeps repeating a quiet, terrifying warning: not all stability is healthy. There is a difference between a tree that stands because its roots are deep, and a tree that stands because it has turned to stone. One is alive, the other is a statue waiting to crumble. Some systems do not collapse because they are attacked by an external enemy. They collapse because they stop moving. In the galaxy of Star Wars, the peace lasted for a millennium. To the senators on Coruscant and the masters in the temple, this duration was proof that the system worked. They believed they had solved the equation of civilization, but they forgot a fundamental law of the universe: entropy. In a closed system, disorder always increases. If you try to freeze a system in place, you are not stopping entropy, you are merely hiding it. You are sweeping the dust under the rug until the rug itself becomes a mountain that you can no longer walk over. The Republic did not burn. The Jedi Order endured. But beneath that calm surface, something subtle began to rot. Not loudly, not violently, but slowly on a molecular level. A living system survives through adaptation. It listens, adjusts, and changes when conditions shift. The human body sweats when it is hot and shivers when it is cold. It is constantly reacting. But when a political or religious system stops adapting, it does not immediately fall apart. Instead, it hardens, it becomes rigid, and rigidity often disguises itself as strength. Think of the Galactic Republic in its final centuries. It was a massive, sprawling bureaucracy that had become too heavy to move. Problems that should have been solved in days took decades to debate in the Senate. Why? Because the goal of the system was no longer progress. The goal was process. The system became obsessed with its own rules. It valued the appearance of order more than the reality of justice. When a planetary dispute arose, the Republic didn't send help. It sent committees. It sent paperwork. It sent delays. This wasn't because the people were evil, but because the institution had prioritized stability over functionality. They believed that if they just kept everything exactly the same, they would remain safe. But the galaxy is a living organism. It evolves. Populations shift, economies change, new philosophies emerge. By refusing to evolve with the galaxy, the Republic became a cage, and the Jedi Order, who were sworn to serve the Force, the very energy of life and change, chained themselves to this dead weight. The Jedi Order was once defined by movement. The ancient Jedi were wayfinders. They moved through the Force, through cultures, through the living currents of the galaxy. They were like water, adaptable, flowing, powerful. But over 10 centuries of uninterrupted peace, that movement slowed. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant ceased to be a resting place and became a fortress. They stopped wandering the galaxy and started managing it from a tower. Traditions became fixed, rules became sacred. The wisdom of the past, which was meant to be a guide, was turned into a wall. Emotional distance was mistaken for wisdom. Control was confused with balance. Peace in this context did not nurture growth. It encouraged preservation. Preservation feels safe. It protects what already exists. But preservation has a terrible cost. It resists change. And when change is treated as corruption, the system begins to fear the very forces that keep it alive. The Jedi became guardians of peace, but they defined peace as the absence of conflict. This is a dangerous definition. True peace is the presence of justice. True peace requires constant maintenance, constant adjustment, and sometimes necessary conflict to correct imbalances. By avoiding all conflict, the Jedi allowed the infection to spread. They cut themselves off from the messy, emotional, chaotic reality of the galaxy. They meditated in serene gardens while the galaxy's underbelly began to fester. They valued the code more than the conscience. The Force is a river. The Jedi tried to turn it into a pond. And ponds, when left stagnant, breed disease. The galaxy itself never stopped moving. While the core worlds enjoyed their opera houses and cocktail parties, slavery continued in the outer rim. Grim syndicates like the Hutts and the Pikes expanded their territories, filling the vacuum left by a passive republic. Corruption spread quietly through political institutions, bought by corporate interests like the Trade Federation. Suffering did not vanish just because the capital looked calm. But systems built on stability often measure reality by their own comfort. When the center feels safe, the edges become invisible. The senators of Coruscant looked out their windows and saw endless traffic, infinite lights, and assumed the galaxy was fine. They could not feel the tremors in the ground because they were living in a tower built on the clouds. This is the blindness of the Ivory Tower. The Jedi did not simply observe the structure of the Republic, they became part of it. They became its immune system. But because the Republic refused to acknowledge it was sick, the Jedi were never deployed to cure the disease. They were only deployed to silence the symptoms. When a system prioritizes order above understanding, it will always choose stillness over flow. It will suppress disruption rather than investigate its cause. If a planet revolted because they were starving, the Jedi were sent to restore order. They were sent to make the shouting stop. They rarely asked why the shouting started. And every unresolved problem adds pressure, quietly, invisibly. Pressure does not disappear when ignored. It accumulates. In physics, this is called static load. A bridge can only hold a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of time before the materials themselves begin to fatigue. In Star Wars, darkness was not eliminated during the Age of Peace. It was contained, regulated, and denied space. But denying a force does not neutralize it. It compresses it. Like water behind a dam, the longer it is restrained, the more destructive its eventual release becomes. The Sith understood this. Palpatine did not have to invent the corruption of the Republic. He didn't have to create the selfishness of the Senate or the arrogance of the Jedi. He simply looked at the dam. He saw the cracks that the Jedi refused to see. And he waited. Palpatine's genius was not in breaking the system. His genius was in realizing that the system was already breaking itself. He positioned himself to be the one who would guide the flood when the dam finally burst. The Clone Wars were not the cause of the Republic's fall. They were the result of it. The war was simply the moment the pressure became too great for the container to hold. The Separatists were not born overnight. They were the accumulation of centuries of neglect. The fallen Jedi were not sudden traitors. They were the result of a dogma that left no room for humanity. This is why long periods of calm can be misleading. They convince civilizations that nothing is wrong, right up until everything breaks at once. Collapse rarely announces itself. It arrives suddenly, but it is built slowly. Stability delays conflict, but it also delays resolution. And delayed resolution turns tension into catastrophe. If the Jedi had allowed small conflicts, small changes, and small adaptations over the centuries, the pressure would have been released gradually. The system would have evolved, but they chose stability. They chose to hold their breath. And if you hold your breath for 1,000 years, the exhale will not be a sigh. It will be an explosion. The most dangerous systems are not the ones that visibly fail. They are the ones that appear to work perfectly while quietly losing their ability to change. The Jedi did not fall because peace ended. Peace ended because the system built around it could no longer adapt to the reality of the galaxy. Order 66 was not just a military maneuver. It was the system snapping back. It was the violent correction of a balance that had been artificially frozen for too long. This pattern is not unique to Star Wars. It is a recurring truth of history. When movement is replaced by preservation, balance turns into stagnation. What looks like harmony becomes silence. And silence, sustained too long, always hides pressure. This is not a story about villains or betrayal. It is a story about systems that mistake stillness for health. The tragedy of the Jedi is that they loved the galaxy so much they tried to stop it from changing. But in a living galaxy, nothing survives by standing still forever. Growth requires change requires movement, and movement requires a loss of stability. The Jedi tried to build a world of pure light without shadow. But the brighter the light, the sharper the shadow. By denying the shadow, they allowed it to grow in the dark, fed by their own rigidity. So look closely at the things that seem most stable. Look at the institutions that have not changed in centuries. Are they strong or are they merely waiting? Because when stability becomes more important than growth, the question is no longer if the system will break. The question is only when.